Welcome to this bonus lesson. Today I want to talk about a concept that is literally the number one thing that I pursue in both my personal life as well as my business life, and that is product market fit. So, in fact, I can tell you based on my experience, the number one source of frustration that people have either, in their business life, in their entrepreneurial projects, or at their jobs, or in personal life is what I call a product market misfit. So, product market fit is a concept that is, a lot of people talk about, but I have a particular definition of product market fit, and I'm gonna go through that first. A product market fit, and I'm gonna use hand movement because a lot of people are visual learners, so I'll use my hand movements. So a product market fit, think of this as a product, think of it as a market that is supposed to be interested in the product. Product market fit happens when you create a product or you have a product and you put that product in front of the market and the market takes up that product without much effort. Let me write that down because that is a key phrase here. Without much effort. So why this is important? Because there might be some, as you're going through putting a product in front of the market, there might be some effort involved in actually reaching the customer and putting the product in front of the market. But if there is product market fit, once the product is put in front of the customer then doesn't need much more convincing to take the product. So, most people use product market fit in the context of business and entrepreneurship. In my opinion, it applies to all aspects of life, including your professional life, your jobs, and also your personal life. And I'll give you a few examples going forward. But just at the very high level, obviously, I'm going to talk about entrepreneurship and how product market fit matters when you start a business. But also, example I give people is if you're applying to jobs, for example, and you're sending resumes, but you're not getting responses back or you're not getting job offers, that is also a product market misfit. So in this case, product is either your resume or your background or your story, and the market are the companies that are hiring, and you're sending the product to the customer, in this case companies, you send your resume to the customers, but then the market, meaning the companies, do not hire you, which means it is a product market misfit. The same honestly applies in all aspects of life. Think dating life, think friendships, all of these. When you feel stuck, it is because there's a product market misfit is happening. And the product can be a variety of things, the market can be a variety of things. I want to put up a talk that I've given multiple times. It's a very popular talk actually at different universities. I've given this talk at UC Berkeley. I've given it at the University of Maryland. I'm going to put up that talk first, right after this. And in that talk, I talk about product market fit and how it is, why it's important, my definition of product market fit, and why I think it's important, and also go through some of the things that you can do to help with the situation of a product market misfit. So I'm going to put up that talk first, watch this talk first, then I'm going to come back right after this talk and I'll expand on that talk. Also, there's an exercise sheet in your mentor box. I want you to find it, and once we are done watching the following video, we're going to go through it, and I'm going to give you some extra tips and exercises to personalize and help you take this concept and start applying it in your real life. So I'll see you on the other side of this video. My name is Alex Mehr. Let me explain the title first. So in the past 10 years, I kind of did a back of the envelope calculation. I have probably raised around $64 million in venture capital in different forms, and I've basically dropped it into launching close to 40 different products in different verticals. Obviously, the one that is the biggest is Zeus, the online dating company. But I've done sports apps, quiz apps, all the things. Regardless of what you've done, you've been exposed to one of my ads in the past 10 years, I promise you. And I apologize for that. So I did all of that, all of those experiments, and I'm supposed to squeeze it into 8 minutes. So $32 million each, 2 points, $32 million each. Next up, I'm going to put up my PayPal, send me the money. All right, let's start. The first thing, the biggest learning, and I think something that helped me a lot and then allowed me to convey to a lot of my friends and help them is principle number one, look for product market fit at all times, everywhere, and in every situation. Let me explain what product market fit is. Some of you guys might have heard of it. Product market fit is when you put a product. It could be a new business plan, a company that you launch. It could be your academic research. It could be your resume. The product could be you. In front of target audience, and they buy it without much effort. So that is product market fit and how I define it. So this applies to entrepreneurship. This applies to job search. This applies to finding a wife or a husband. This applies to dating. This applies to every aspect of life. And how do you find it? So I'll give you a few tips. So 4 tips, that would be what? $8 million each. So tip number 1, and the first mistake that people make. Here's a product, here's a market. People try to bend the market to want the product. Mistake. You can never bend the market towards what you want. Always bend or change the product towards the market. Let me explain. You're looking for a job, and you send your resumes to a lot of companies. Nobody calls you back. Do you get frustrated? What do? The first thing you should do is look at the product, in this case, your resume, and try to change your resume. Saying that the world is blah, blah, blah doesn't help you at all. And trying to wait for the world to come around to appreciate you or appreciate your product is a losing game. Make sense? Okay, $8 million. Tip number 2. I call this, there's a cognitive bias called commitment bias. And that's when you put a lot of energy into it, you get committed to it. It's a mistake. Spend enough energy on a new idea, on a new company, on a relationship, on someone you're dating, or on your resume until you determine whether there's a product market fit or not. And if there isn't, move on. Cut your costs, move on. That's $16 million total. Tip number 3. If you are not achieving product market fit, right? So you've tried a bunch of things, it's not working. The first thing you should do is to actually stop looking at whatever you're doing, whatever you're trying to do. Take a vacation, go away, walk away from it a week, 2 weeks. Then look at it with fresh eyes and try to be unbiased. This one thing has helped me a lot. Every time I've hit a roadblock, I just left whatever I was doing, just disappeared for a week or 2, and then look at it again. It's pretty simple, right? But basically what happens is if you are able to forget about the problem you're working on, the next time you look at it, your brain, the synapses in your brain, approach it differently, okay? So you find solutions that you otherwise were not able to because you were trying to hit it from an angle. All right, I forgot tip number 4, so deduct $8 million from my balance. All right, I'm going to move to principle number 2. How much time do I have? Okay, 30 seconds? Well, it's stuck. Okay. I have 5 minutes? Really? Okay, good. All right, now I have to make up some stuff. All right, so principle number 2. So a lot of you guys might have heard of product market fit, by the way. I have my own definition of it, like I mentioned. Might be different than how academics define it. Google it. There's a lot of content. You can learn a lot about it. Second one, my invention. I call it the central thesis. So when you have something that's working that has traction, right? you launch a product and people start using it. Or you're a professor and you keep getting grants, right? I assume some of you guys are professors. A product market fit is happening. That's good news, but you should always want to amplify it. And the way to amplify it is to try to understand exactly what is working, which I call central thesis. The central thesis of that traction. Or even if you're looking at someone else's, like a competitor or someone else's traction, you have to try to distill that particular magic that is happening, that the market is buying the product, into a central thesis. And central thesis in my book is the following. It is very limited. I have a very strict definition of central thesis. Central thesis is a phrase. It has somewhere between 5 to 7 keywords in it. And I've done a lot of ads, launched a lot of ads to people. The headline of the ad that I launch on Facebook, for example, is what I call the central thesis. So it's 5 to 7 keywords, drop all the articles, all those things. So 5 to 7, if you go longer, people don't click or people don't connect. If you go too short, it doesn't convey enough. So 5 to 7 keywords. I also advise to add 1 or 2 numbers in it, specific numbers. Now look at my title. I have 2 numbers. $1 million, I call it 1 word. Crazy experiments summarized 8 minutes, another one. So basically, everything that you do that is working, you want to put it in a template like this. And then what you do is you say, okay, so I have this thing that is somewhat working, my career is going well, in whatever, company you're working with, it's going well. Why is it going well? And try to distill it into a central thesis like that, okay? And then what you do is you contract, you drop everything else, and you amplify that one thing that does very well, and just go maximum speed in that direction. That's how you take your game, whatever it is, to the next level, okay? All right, one final point, and this is kind of like to wrap this up. Know your batting average. And let me explain. Now that you guys understand these 2 concepts, I want to talk about something on top of it called batting average. And that's basically out of the things that you do in your life. For me, launching products, that's what I do in life. My own, know your batting average. Mine is 25%. 3 of the 4 products I launched, they bomb. Like they just don't go anywhere. 1 out of 4 gets traction. And the moment I see traction, I see customers, whether it's B2B product, B2C product, buying it. Then I distill it into a central thesis and run, okay? So you can basically apply this principle everywhere. And why do I say it's important to know your batting average? Because all of us, we do try a lot of things in life. Some of them fail, some of them don't. If you know that out of the 4 times that you swing, only 1 hits, or maybe your batting average is better than mine, then you don't get frustrated. You know that, okay, I missed this one, but I'll live to swing another day, okay? All right, I guess that's all I had to do. All right, thank you guys. Okay, so hope you enjoyed the talk. Now, I want to repeat one point from that lecture, and then I'll give you a few exercises to really drive the point home. So, like I said in that talk, the number 1 source of frustration that I've seen among entrepreneurs or people who feel stuck somewhere is that they encounter a situation where they put a product in front of the market and there's a product market misfit. The market doesn't take the product. There's a lot of without much effort, right? Remember, the whole key here is you want to seek products and markets, product market fit, such that when you put the product in front of the market, there isn't much effort. Then there isn't much effort involved in selling the product. So, so going back to my main point, the main reason for frustration is that this product market misfit happens. But instead of people thinking, okay, I'm gonna change the product, I'm gonna come up with a new product, Or sometimes you can also find a new market for your product. They just get stuck feeling frustrated. They try to convince the market. Let me repeat, they try to convince the market. And it actually, in my opinion, is impossible to convince the market. If the market is telling you that they don't want this particular product, you cannot convince the market to want it. So it might be difficult to reach the market, but once you reach the market should want your product. If it doesn't, you shouldn't be trying to convince the market. You shouldn't feel frustrated. You shouldn't feel like the world is an unfair place. Maybe it is an unfair place, but that doesn't help you. So the feeling that, oh, so the world is unfair and they should really want and appreciate my product, that really doesn't help you. Also, waiting for the world to change its mind to want its product is also, it's a waiting game that you will never win. So my point is, whenever you fit this situation where the fit isn't happening, you cannot be mad at the world. You cannot expect the world to change its mind. You should either change your product, come up with a new product, and in some cases, look for a new market to sell the same product to. So I can give you a few examples of personal and professional life, and then we hone in on entrepreneurship a little bit. So personal life, as I said in my lecture, and one of the things that I tell people all the time, it applies to romantic relationships, personal relationships, and also professional life. If you're not getting the promotion that you want in your company, it's because there isn't an explicit need that you're satisfying. As a matter of fact, for those of you guys who have been a member of MentorBox, in a previous box, we went through Ryan Holiday's The Obstacle is the Way, and he talks about an example of George Clooney, who had difficulty getting an acting job, and he was auditioning unsuccessfully until he realized that he is a solution to someone else's problem, meaning they need to hire someone for an acting role, and the moment he changed his perspective to think of himself and what he's offering in an audition as a solution to that problem, it changed the game. Ryan Holiday, the author, talked about that. And I think that's an example of a product market misfit, that you should change the product to become a product market fit. Another example that I tell people is, applying for jobs. Like if nobody is returning, let's say you send a lot of resumes and you don't get any response back. In that scenario, the resume is a product and people aren't getting back to you. That means that you should change your resume. You should tell the story that you say in your resume. Another problem that can happen in the same scenario is that, okay, so I send a lot of resumes, people get back to me and I get interviews, but then after the job interviews, nobody actually extends an offer to me. Well, that means that your interview, the way you present yourself in the interview there's no product market fit. So change the story that you say in your interview. So I think that's why I am like, obviously this applies to entrepreneurship, and I'll talk about it in a second, but my point is that it applies to a lot of other things in addition to entrepreneurship. So now let's focus on entrepreneurship for a second. I see a lot of first-time entrepreneurs, and I ask them a simple question. I ask them, like, this is first-time entrepreneur just has an idea or just started working on a product, and I tell them, what is the number one job? What is your number one job? What is the number one thing that you want to do? Is it to launch a product? No, wrong answer. Is it to make sales? No, wrong answer. Is it to raise money, investment for your company? No, wrong answer. Is it to hire people? No. The number one job of an entrepreneur is to determine if there is a product market fit as quickly and as cheaply as possible. Let me repeat this point one more time, because I think it's really important for entrepreneurs and business owners to hear this. Or if you have an idea, that you want to start a business around, it's important for you guys to hear it. And the point is very simple. Your number one job is by far the most important job of an entrepreneur, is to determine if there is a product market fit. Meaning, if you put the product, or if you put the idea of the product or the concept in front of the customer, will there be a product market fit? Okay? Because why that is important? Because if there is no product market fit, everything that you do to build the product and build your marketing campaigns, all of that will be a waste. So basically, the main idea is to find out if there's a product market fit before you spend a lot of resources and hire people and raise capital and all that to build a product and put it in front of the customer. So, to just, and maybe in a future talk, I talk about, some actual tactics to do this as quickly as possible. But the most important thing is the mindset. Like I said, the mindset, people think, oh, I've built a business when I have a team. No, having a team is not a goal. Having hired people is not a goal. Raising money to hire people is not a goal. That is a tool that you can use once you have product market fit to launch and accelerate the growth of your business. But having a team doesn't replace product market fit. If you don't have a product that the market wants, doesn't matter. If you have raised capital, if you have a team around you, you have patents about I see this all the time. They're like, oh, we have these very valuable patents for our product. I'm like, yes, but you understand that the patents are irrelevant if nobody wants your product, right? Does that make sense? So with that, let's jump into the exercise, your exercise sheet really quick. So you have the exercise sheet in your box, in your mentor box. And on the first page, it's a review of what I just talked about. So hopefully you can pause this video and go read that one page. I think it is important, and you can send us an email and tell us if this concept helped you guys or not. But I've given this talk multiple times, University of Maryland, University of Berkeley, multiple times actually at Berkeley. And every time I have gotten emails afterwards from people who were in the audience who told me, well, I went and applied this frame of thinking to such and such problem, and this helped in a particular way. So hopefully the same thing happens for you guys. Now, what I want to do is I want to go through 4 exercises that you have on this exercise sheet. And the goal of this exercise is, it's one thing to hear things theoretically. The other one is to walk through these exercises and then personalize the idea. And that's what we're trying to accomplish with these 4 exercises. So exercise number 1, remember a time in your life. Just go back in your life and remember a time in your life, and everybody has this, where you had a product that everybody wanted. And this is not necessarily business. It could be that you applied for a job and you got multiple offers. It could be that, you were on the dating scene and you had a lot of people who were interested in dating you. It could be that, whenever in your life, like go back your entire life and think of that moment where you had a product. It was either you or your professional skills, or it was an idea, or it was in your job. Your boss was constantly telling you, oh, you're doing a great job, and you were getting promotions. Or at school, you were doing a great job and you were going through. So think of that moment. And I want you to relive that moment, and I want you to memorize, basically think how it felt to have a product that the market wanted, right? And that would be the opposite of being frustrated with a product that the market doesn't want. So think of that moment, save that feeling in your head. I have, like everyone else, I have experienced the same thing myself multiple times. For example, in my previous company, I started a dating company called Zeus many years ago. And there were times, and I was a first-time entrepreneur at that time. There were days where we were getting 20,000, 80,000 new users every day. And I remember those days. And that's an example of a product market fit. I had a product that the market wanted. And we had a product market fit. And I have that feeling memorized. The other example for you would be, right after, for example, right after graduate school, when I got my PhD, I sent my resume to a lot of large engineering organizations, and pretty much every single one of them either invited me for an interview or gave me a job offer. That was the feeling of, okay, so I, as this professional persona with my resume, you feel wanted, like there's a product market fit. I am offering something that other people want. And I'm giving you these examples to you guys, not to brag, but to actually tell you that everybody at some point has had something like this, where they were offering something that the market wanted. Another example, MentorBox is a good example. We sell out every single month. Like we are continuously increasing our production, but we sell out every single month. So that's another example of product market fit. So what I do in these situations is like, savor your victories. This is not a victory per se. It is a product market fit that you need to actually acknowledge and kind of save that feeling, so that in the future, when something is not working, at least you acknowledge that it's not working, and then you take action. Exercise number 2. Now I want you to think about a challenge that you currently have, a frustration, a product that the market doesn't want. Again, it can be in your business, it could be in your life, it could be in your professional life at your job, maybe you're looking for a job, maybe you're trying to get promotions, whatever it is. It could be romantic relationships. In all of these situations, hopefully you agree with me that there is a product market misfit, meaning you're offering something that the market doesn't want. And I want you to first acknowledge that, meaning understand who's the market and what's the product. And so identify the product in that scenario, identify the market in that scenario, and understand that the reason that you feel stuck is that the market doesn't want the product, or it's not easy to give this product to the market. Maybe there are challenges in putting the product in front of the customers, but the market isn't taking it once you do so. And that is the main source of frustration. So now that you've identified the problem, you've identified the product, and you've identified the market, in exercise 3, I want you to do the following. Instead of thinking, oh, the market is unfair that doesn't want my product, or the market is stupid because it doesn't want my product, or you feel like, oh, if I wait and I continue to hammer it, right? I just keep selling the same product to the same market, even though the market tells you no, and you keep doing it. Instead of doing that, just change your perspective a little bit. Think about it this way. The market doesn't want it, and like I said, the number one lesson from this, hopefully by now I've hammered it, is that you can never convince the market to want the same product. The market told you no. So being frustrated, trying to convince the market, all of those are just, wasted energy and effort. So instead of trying to bend the market towards your product, convince the market, be frustrated at the market, now think about how you can change the product. So how you can change the product, change the story of the product, iterate on the product. Drop the product altogether, start with a new product. Like it could be, you have a particular, like I said, in business, it is actually the application is pretty straightforward. You have to iterate on the product until the market wants it, or drop it and start another one. That's what they call pivoting in startup language. It's jargon, doesn't matter, but the point is the same, that you have a product that the market doesn't want. You can't wait for the market to come around. You have to change your product. You have to try another one and another one and another one. And your single goal is to basically determine if there's product market fit. No, change the product. Is a product market fit? No, change the product. Is a product market fit? No, change the product. And you keep doing it until there is a product market fit. A secondary way of doing it is to try to sell the same product to a different market. Maybe you've tried to sell it to one market that doesn't want it, but you try to do sell the same product to a secondary market. In my experience, most of the time, the solution is to change the product, not change the market. Like, not try a different market. You can never change the market, but you can try a different market. It's mostly change the product. Sometimes you can find a different market that wants the same product, but most of the time just leave the market alone. Change your own product. And this applies to professional life. So now this exercise 3, we're asking you to take that problem where you identified a product market misfit, and you've identified the product and the market and the misfit there, and then brainstorm 3 ways where you can get past this. These 3 ways are not changing the market. They're either changing the product altogether, changing the story of the product, or coming up with a brand new product. So whatever it is, write down explicitly what are some ideas to get past that, that frustration, and take actual steps to change the product to achieve product market fit. Exercise number 4. The goal of this exercise is for you to stop fooling yourself. Because one of the things I see is people hit this product market misfit. So they are committed in something. They're committed to an idea, to a job, to a particular story or narrative that they have. And they hit a product market misfit. But then instead of recognizing that this is an actual product market misfit, they come up with the stories and say, oh, if I wait a little bit more, this is going to be resolved, or blah, blah, blah. Those are just excuses. And people tell me, how do you know you actually when you reach product market fit? I'm like, you know what? When you hit product market fit, you know it. You can't miss it. That's why in exercise 1, I told you guys to remember that time when you hit a product market fit. I remember mine. So, and unless I get the same feeling, like I know that the market is getting my product. As a matter of fact, I can tell you a simple test, if it is an actual business problem that you're trying to solve, is that can you make enough of the product for the market? Is demand, much more than supply, like you run out of your products. That is what product market feels like. So now this is the time. Remember exercise number 1? I told you to save that feeling of sometime in your past that you have achieved product market fit. I want you to iterate, change your product until you get the same feeling. It is not waiting another day for the market to come around. None of those work. So your goal is basically don't fool yourself. So acknowledge product market misfit and then iterate until you hit product market fit and you get the same feeling. And here's a final point. I call this, applying overwhelming force to a product market fit. Maybe a better term for it would be, once you have product market fit, then it's time to double down and triple down on that and continue going forward aggressively. In other words, let's say let's say professional life. In business, the application of this is very straightforward. But let's say in professional life, you come up, you specialize in something, and all of a sudden it feels like all the companies in the world want to hire you. And you get promotions and you're doing very well in your job. Number 1, congratulations for hitting product market fit. Number 2, recognize what is it that is giving you product market fit, and then double down on it. Basically, drop everything else and just double down on what is working. And then if it's working more, double down on it and double down on it, and do not stop. Just aggressively pursue product market fit. Think about it this way. Your job is basically, I can apply this to pretty much every aspect of life and business and professional life and all that. Your job is to just continue searching, just poke around until you have product market fit. And once you have it, stop hesitating. So double down on it, go very aggressively in that direction. Hope this lesson was helpful. And as always, I actually encourage you guys to write these things down in the exercise sheet. This is kinesthetic learning. Basically, writing helps personalize and memorize the concepts a lot better. And hopefully that helps you with whatever breakthrough that you need in any aspect of your life. Hopefully this talk was useful. Thank you. Bye.